And they wonder why I be screaming, check the family, in these missing person cases. Even when I watch them on TV or Netflix, a lot of times I start off saying, check the family, maybe a family member. Because here lately, not saying that it don't be just random people that just target women or children or something like that, but here lately it seemed like it's been the family. That's what I'm saying. This woman faces charges after allegedly holding stepson captive for over 20 years. 20 years. We're going to get to it. Listen, you know how this goes. Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
We have a shocking story from Waterbury, Connecticut, where police say a woman held her stepson captive for more than 2 decades, and he was only discovered after he says he set a fire in the family home for attention.
Kimberly Sullivan stood in a Connecticut courtroom yesterday, accused of cruelty and abusing her stepson for more than 20 years. Police say the victim, who is now 32 years old, told them he was kept a secret his entire life, locked away in his 8 by 9 foot room since he was 11. The emaciated man, who at 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighed only 68 pounds when he was found by police.
I was wondering, because I was thinking at the age, the more I started to think about it, I was like, all right, about 15, you ain't going to be able to hold me captive, lady, at 15 unless you got a weapon on me or some kind of way, because I'm getting older, I'm getting bigger, and I'm probably going to outweigh you, and then at that point ain't nothing you can do with me. But 5'9", 68 pounds? Oh, she shouldn't see the light of day for that, bro. 68 pounds?
According to the affidavit, he also told them he would only be given 2 cups of water a day, sometimes being forced to drink out of the toilet, and says he was only allowed out of his room to do chores for Sullivan. He says he was pulled out of school in the 4th grade and had had no contact with anyone. But last month, the Waterbury Fire Department was called to the home for reports of a fire they say was started by the man in his room. The man told first responders he believed it was his only way out. He was taken to the hospital, and that's when officials learned the details of his living conditions.
He lit that fire knowing he could very well die, but he'd been locked in that room for 20 years, and for 20 years he'd been trying to get out of that room.
An attorney for Sullivan denied the claims of abuse.
Absolutely not true. He was not locked in a room. She did not restrain him in any way. She provided food. She provided shelter. She is blown away by these allegations.
Sullivan is being...
How you take that case? How you take that case and sleep at night? I've seen some things in my time, and I know you guys have too. But how do you take that case and get up there at that podium and say that? A 68-pound, 5'9" adult. And you're going to sit here and say she did none of those things? This is all just made up? Somebody's lying on her? I'm so glad he said, like, him setting that fire in that room was the smartest thing, you know? Probably, when you think about it, maybe not, because it could have gotten to him, but at this point, he probably didn't even care. But this lawyer, though, oh my gosh, bro.
Being held on a $300,000 bond. She's due back in court at the end of the month. The victim remains in a medical facility for treatment. I mean, the affidavit...
Story's so bizarre. I don't even know what to say.
The details just get worse and worse. He told officials that he was hungry all day, every day of his life. He was able to start this fire by using hand sanitizer and printer paper.
We have a shocking story from...
Man, I hope he gets... And I hope this, from this day forward, is the best, you know what I mean? He lived his best life. I hope every day is joyful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope and pray that, man, those 20 years, the next 20 years is the best years of his life, bro. Because nobody should have to go through that. Ever. Ever.
Our COP climate summit's hypocritical. They're supposed to tackle climate change, but critics say it's hard to ignore the irony when world leaders roll in on private jets. Take the upcoming COP30 in Brazil. They're planning to carve a 4-lane highway through a protected part of the Amazon rainforest just to accommodate for the summit. They'll also need to double the number of hotel beds, increasing carbon-emitting construction. This isn't new though. At the Dubai Climate Summit in 2023, 644 private jets were linked to the event. The UN and others are pushing for virtual meetings to cut the environmental impact, but in Brazil, the Belém airport is speeding up expansion just to handle all the extra traffic. Have these guys heard of Zoom? Our COP climate summit's hypocritical.
Again, I say, she had the right word though. It's hypocritical. Save the rainforest. Grew up hearing that. But none of their actions show that they want to save the rainforest. No, they want to save their money. They want to make more money. That's what they want. They want to line their pockets. They want to be greedy. Scrooge McDuck, swimming in money. That's what they want. They don't care about the rainforest. Get out of here. It's like it's trying to get inside, which makes me question, right? My question is, I wonder if a possession can start, like somebody getting possessed can start with something as small as an orb. Because the way that thing looked like it was trying to figure out a way to get inside or figure out made me think about that. Especially if you ever watched maybe Exorcist or some type of possession movie. And you always wonder, and then they show how it could have started. You know what I mean? Some type of old like figurine ornament or something up under a house. You didn't know it was there, it was demonic and it caused a possession or something. And then I look at this and I start thinking, I'm like, I wonder if an orb could do that. Maybe. Just a thought. And this is the exact reason why when I used to work at International Paper, they would not let us go into a confined space without a 4-gas monitor. There you go. Perfect example, prime example why. You don't want to be in one of them confined spaces with those gases in there for something like this to happen. Yeah. No, thank you.
NYPD has filled its third bus full of protesters who are participating in a massive sit-in at Trump Tower. All this over the arrest of Palestinian activist and green card holder Mahmoud Khalil. NBC's Yasmin Vasugian is there on the ground for us. What are you seeing, Yasmin?
Yeah, so it seems as if the protest, Chris, now is wrapping up a bit. And I say that because there were numerous arrests that happened on the scene here outside of Trump Tower. As you mentioned, this was a protest by an activist group called Jewish Voices for Peace. They were protesting the ongoing detention of Mahmoud Khalil. We know that to be the grad student at Columbia University who helped organize those pro-Palestinian protests. The ongoing pro-Palestinian protests that happened at Columbia University on the campus there. He has an 8-month pregnant wife at home. He has been sent to Louisiana to a detention center there. His lawyer saying outside a courtroom just yesterday that he has been unable to speak with his client so far throughout his detention. We've also heard from President Trump as well, who says these arrests will will be ongoing. I've been speaking to folks up at Columbia University as well, Chris, and I will say there are people that are worried about these potential arrests that are happening there at the campus, seeing what has happened in Mahmoud Khalil so far. As we saw here behind me, the group saying Jewish Voices for Peace, 300 plus people gathered here over 2 hours or so. The NYPD coming and saying 3 separate times they had to come out of the lobby of Trump Tower or else they would face arrest. In fact, that is exactly what happened. There was a city bus that was brought here along with an NYPD bus as well. The NYPD bus was filled to the brink with protesters that were being arrested, along with a city bus that was halfway filled as well. We heard from the NYPD just moments ago in a press conference. Chris, let's take a listen to what they had to say about these arrests, and then we'll talk on the other side.
Roughly 150 people entered Trump Plaza. We made 98 arrests. Those arrests are for trespassing, obstructing government administration, and resisting arrest by virtue of us having to carry some of the people out of the escalate.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. As we continue to follow this breaking news, we do know about 100 protesters are inside Trump Tower in Manhattan right now. Taking you out live to the scene, this is just one of the many shots that we are getting in here to our Live Now from Fox newsroom. I do just want to turn up the audio for a moment to see what we can hear before I read you the details. All right, so it does appear that there is no audio on this, but as you can see, there is a police presence inside. And here's what we do know as of right now. Demonstrators from a Jewish group are filling the lobby of Trump Tower to denounce the immigration arrest of a Columbia University activist who helped lead student protests on the campus against Israel's war in Gaza. The Jewish Voice for Peace protesters are wearing red shirts, as you can see, and
So here's my thing, right? This is where people have a problem, right? All these people were protesting. And yes, they went in, they trespassed, they were asked to leave. They said if they didn't leave, they would be arrested. They knew the ramifications. They knew what would happen if they continued to stay there, and they chose to stay there and they got arrested. Okay, cool. Right? I'm not saying anything about that. My issue is when you have this group of people that is protesting, and then you have a group that storms the Capitol and things get wild. How can people view those as different? Because what I see is people who were for and the release of the people who stormed the Capitol and all this type of stuff like that are sitting here like condemning these people for protesting and doing what they're doing. And this didn't get even close to being as rowdy as the storming of the Capitol was. So that's my question, because I see some people saying different things and making hateful comments, and that's who my attention is directed at. It's like, but y'all were for people being released and doing what they did at the Capitol, but this y'all are against. Help me understand, and that's my question.
And it says, quote, Jews say, stop arming Israel. They're also carrying banners reading, opposing fascism is a Jewish tradition and fight Nazis, not students. And they're saying, bring Mahmoud home now. And again, if you aren't familiar with this story, Mahmoud Khalil is a permanent U.S. resident who is married to an American citizen and who hasn't been charged with breaking any laws, but he was arrested outside his New York City apartment on Saturday, and he is now facing a deportation. President Donald Trump has said Khalil's arrest was the first of many to come, and vowed on social media to deport students who he said engage in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, and anti-American activity. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox.
Yeah, I mean, that's my only question. You can feel how you want to about the protests. That's up to the people who choose to do that. You know what I'm saying? If you choose to do that, you choose to do that. You understand the risk going into it. Cool. But my thing is just the comments, man, that I see people saying and different things like that. And then you're like, but weren't you the same person that was for the storming of the Capitol and all of this type of stuff, and then them being released and stuff? How is this Worse than that? Like how? Okay, that's what gets to me.
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom.
President Trump says he is not worried about a recession, but he
didn't say what type of boom, right? He didn't say, you know what I mean, a good boom or a bad boom. He just said it. I see it as a boom. You have to interpret what you will out of that.
has warned about a little economic disturbance. So should we be worried about a recession? On Wall Street, fears are rising, and analysts say Trump's policies are increasing the odds of a downturn. Trump's tariffs, the taxes on imports, which seem to change by the hour, are causing the most concern. They're driving up costs for businesses and causing market panic. Companies are holding back investments, retail sales are down, and big businesses are warning of slowdown. JP Morgan's now predicting a 40% chance of recession, and Goldman Sachs has raised its bets to 20%. These are big financial companies that predict recessions based on what they think the economy will do. Now, the stock market's worry isn't all about President Trump. Investors were already nervous about an AI bubble and high interest rates. But the fear is Trump's fast-changing policies might make things much worse.
California's Attorney General says officials have made the largest fentanyl bust the state has ever seen. More than 50 pounds of powdered fentanyl, amounting to about 14 million lethal doses with a street value of $55 million. The haul was recently seized inside a car and an apartment outside of Los Angeles. 3 people were arrested. California's Attorney General said,
now, anybody with anything negative to say, you can't say nothing negative about this, right? For all that you said, he's been going hard against fentanyl. He has. So I'm a person that believes in giving somebody their props when they do what they say they're gonna do. And if you getting this type of stuff, if you've seen the effects and what it's done to people, how it's taken people's lives, then you can salute this here. Salute to him for continuing to crack down on this.
If the goal of the tariffs is to encourage more domestic production of primary aluminum, you have to remember that the production of aluminum is very electricity intensive. To start a new smelter or restart one of the old ones, it would consume about as much electricity as the entire city of Cleveland. Then if you want to talk about matching the amount of aluminum that gets imported from Canada, that's the equivalent of 4 Hoover dams worth of electricity. So if you want to restart domestic aluminum production, you've got to solve the electricity problem.
So that means we need Canada, right? Based upon what I'm hearing from him, or we need to figure something out fast. And I don't think we can figure out something. He just said 4 Hoover dams it would take. And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen anybody start construction or doing anything. So we need Canada. It sounds like we need Canada plus some more. Like, yeah. Wow. I did not know that. That's interesting. That's one of those Snapple facts.
one big thing the Department of Education handles is student loans. What happens to that now?
Well, they insist that the funding is going to continue uninterrupted. They haven't said how exactly that is going to happen. Keep in mind that the agency actually oversees about $1.5 trillion worth of student loans and FAFSA and Pell Grants and all the rest. And the big concern is that it's going to be a lot more difficult for people to get answers when they have problems with those loans. Another big thing, John, that the agency does is to fund research so that states can make better decisions about how they use the money that they are given. But a lot of that research was already cut a few weeks ago.
One big thing the department...
All people care about is whether or not they got to pay their student loan money back. You know what I'm saying? That's all people care about when it comes to student loans. That's it. But we do need to address that student loan problem, because that thing is one of the reasons why we are where we are right now. People have so much debt. Student loans. I feel like a lot of people were given student loans that probably shouldn't have received them. That, along with people mismanaging student loans, not even using student loans for school, just using it on all types of of different things and still be given more. Like, we have a huge problem with our student loan system, the way they go about giving them out and allowing people to just get them and get them and get them and get them and keep getting them. Like, there's a problem there that needs to be solved and fixed. And it's been happening since I was in school. Before I was in school, it was happening. Like, I knew people who were getting student loans and not even using them on school, using them on cars, using them to buy clothes, to pay their rent, everything. You know what I mean? Instead of what it needed to be for. Now, if we wanted to give people money to go to school and attend school, then if we had a way or some kind of way to give people money that met certain criteria and stuff like that, which I think we do have a lot of that, we do, then that's the way. But if you can't get a loan, it's there to say, okay, do you qualify or you don't qualify? Because if you don't, then you don't need to get it. That way you don't put yourself in a bad predicament later on in life.
What happens when you arrest a former president? Rodrigo Duterte, the former leader of the Philippines, was dramatically arrested at Manila airport by local authorities acting on a warrant from the International Criminal Court.
What is the crime that I committed?
Rodrigo Duterte is in The Hague in the Netherlands, where the ICC is based, to be tried on charges of crimes against humanity relating to his brutal war on drugs.
Order ko talaga sa kanila, pag makawag ng baril, patayin mo na para one less criminals.
Dubbed the Punisher, Rodrigo Duterte was president from 2016 to 2022, during which time he oversaw a brutal years-long crackdown on drug pushers that allegedly left thousands dead. More than 6,000 people were killed, according to official police data, but independent monitors believe that the figure could be much higher. The former leader has repeatedly denied the extrajudicial killing of drug suspects. So what happens next? Duterte will be held in a detention center in The Hague. He will then be tried for his alleged crimes, but a verdict could take years to reach. Still, the very fact that the former leader is now in The Hague is significant. An arrest of this kind is relatively rare, and very few former heads of state have ever been brought to trial. Why? Because the International Criminal Court can't carry out arrest warrants itself. It depends on the cooperation of the countries involved, and that cooperation is something that it rarely has, which is why so many that are on its wanted list remain at large. The ICC is currently seeking the arrest of several senior Israeli politicians, including Benjamin Netanyahu, on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The court has also issued an arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The arrest of Rodrigo Duterte is an important reminder of the power of the International Criminal Court when national politics does choose to play ball, and it sends an important message about international justice. What happens when you arrest?
It's just interesting to see. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to see when certain ones have arrest warrants and stuff like that. You know, they hide in plain sight. But if that's you or me, bro, as soon as we poke our neck out the door, they arresting us. We're going to jail. They found us. Don't take them long. The warrant was issued a few hours ago, and they already got us in handcuffs. Like, it's crazy. But it sounded like all he did was crack down on drugs. Like, there's got to be more that I'm missing. I don't know.
If you're tired of being asked to add a tip to your $7 latte, practically every purchase you make, you get asked to make this tip. Well, a new survey from the personal finance company Wallet Hub reveals, not surprised here, 86% of Americans believe tipping culture is, quote, out of control, and 83% think automatic service charges should be banned. And that's not all. 51% of people say they tip because of social pressure rather than for good service. If you're tired of being asked...
If you're honest, that's a true statement right there. Tipping has gotten out of control, and I'm a tipper. I like to tip. But me walking into a counter, ordering something at a counter, not being sat down, not standing at the sign that says, please wait to be seated, then being seated, getting a waitress, them coming and servicing all I need. No, all I did was walk in here, place an order, got my food, and got ready to leave. And you're saying you need to tip and you want this, that, and third. You get all these prompts when you're trying to pay, and you're like, what? For what? I've already paid for that, which is incorporated in my meal of what I paid to get my meal. Now, if it's different, they need to come out and break it down. But I ain't seen nobody break it down. They just started shoving these additional fees down our throat. Like, come on, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, it is out of hand. And in places like Atlanta, it's all kind of additional charges and things added to your, like an Atlanta fee or something. I don't even know. It's just disgusting at this point. It is. Again, maybe this is them telling us we need to sit our butts home. They don't want to change. We have the right to not go to their establishment, especially if we complaining about it. And I'm complaining. This tipping thing has gotten out of control. I'm sorry. And like I said in the beginning, I'm a tipper. I'm not one of those ones who's not going to. No, I'm going to tip, especially if your service was great. I'm tipping you.
A major escalation in President Trump's trade war. The president now firing back at the retaliation Europe took yesterday. Here is what he just posted. Quote, the European Union has just put a nasty 50% tariff on whiskey. If this tariff is not removed immediately, the U.S. will shortly place a 200% tariff on all wines, champagnes, and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries. CNN's Elena Treen with us right now. We've got this message here.
Told y'all the egos is involved, and this thing is not finna get no better no time soon. I'm sorry, I see it.
This is the president sort of jumping back at France, who, by the way, was hit with tariffs when he put a huge tariffs on the EU this week. What are you hearing?
Yeah, look, Sarah, this is actually, I mean, one, not totally unexpected, given if you've listened to what the president has said repeatedly. He really, and when I talk to Trump administration and White House officials, they essentially say that they believe that the president is right to put these tariffs on these different countries. And if they're going to retaliate with tariffs of their own, that he's going to punch back several times harder. And that is what we are seeing today with this announcement in this Truth Social post. I just want to read.
Oh, yeah. Somebody need to make the Oprah meme. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. You get another tariff. You get another. Like, that's what the meme needs to be right now.
A little bit for you. He said he would impose a 200% tariff on alcoholic beverages from the EU. He said if this tariff is not removed immediately, that's the 50% tariff, that the European government had put on United States goods following the tariffs that Trump had initially placed on all steel and aluminum coming to the United States. He said if this tariff is not removed immediately, the U.S. will shortly place a 200% tariff on all wines, champagnes, and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries. He went on to argue that this would be great for the wine and champagne business in the United States. But look, I think this approach that the president and his administration is taking shows just how quickly some of this tariff policy can get out of hand. We are really seeing this not only stop and go approach, but also this tit for tat retaliation back and forth with a lot of these different allies of the United States that are beginning to really not only obviously affect the markets, which we have seen on a downward spiral for the last couple of days now, but also the relationships that the United States have with these different trading partners. Now, I do also want to point out, though, how Donald Trump sees this as a negotiating tactic. He made that very clear yesterday in the Oval Office, and part of that negotiation we are going to see continue today when Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and the United States Trade Representative Jameson Green is going to meet with some of Canada's top officials. Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Elena, when you consider this, I've never thought I'd ever have to say this, but there might be a run on champagne because France is the only one that officially has the champagne as a name. Everything else is sparkling wine. We will see what happens here, but this is what a trade war is. If you start and someone else responds, you're then in the middle of a big fight. Elena Treen, thank you so much for your reporting there from the White House for us. I want to get straight to the breaking news, which is Donald Trump is threatening even bigger tariffs on Europe because of the EU responding and France responding to the initial tariffs, saying that they're going to put a 50% tariff on U.S. alcohol. Trump now saying he's going to put a 200% tariff on any of the alcoholic beverages coming from France. I want to let you both listen to what we heard from Tommy Tuberville before Donald Trump made this new fight even stronger. Here's what he said about how Americans should be responding to the tariffs.
No pain, no gain. That's what we used to tell our football players. There's going to be some pain with tariffs. But tariffs got us back as the strongest economy in the world when President Trump was in the first time. He knows what he's doing. The Democrats, get out of the way, shut up. You have no answers.
Zolan, what do you think about what you're hearing from Tommy Tuberville telling Democrats, look, you get out of the way, you don't have any answers, and everyone else who is looking at these tariffs, when you look at the polling, says we don't like them?
You know, one of the more significant changes when it comes to the rhetoric of Republicans and allies of President Trump and Trump himself has been the remarks about consumer prices and almost the message to voters about what to expect in terms of the economic pain that they may feel. There with Tuberville's remarks, I also hear no pain, no gain. And there's something interesting there. It's almost like you're hearing Republicans continue to tell voters that there may actually trying to almost hedge expectations on the economic frustrations that will come. We know that with this administration that the president has centered in many ways his foreign policy when it comes to the Western Hemisphere as well as Europe around tariff threats. We know that that's going to continue. The thing to watch now moving forward is how do voters respond, especially as the weeks go on and you may see most economists would say consumer prices would go up. As that frustration builds, will voters start to turn that frustration against the administration and against the position of using these tariffs this frequently? I think the thing that we have to watch in the weeks forward as you continue to see these tariff threats are not just the response by different nations, but also how voters respond, including in town halls, which we've seen in recent weeks.
Right. The U.S. president.
Yeah, but what can the voters do? I guess would be my question. You know what I mean? Other than stop going out and spending money. I think that's the biggest, that's the power that we have. You know what I'm saying? As consumers, we have spending power. We have the power to say, okay, then we just won't go out. But you have to get everybody on board. You have to. In order for that power to be felt, you need everyone involved. That's pretty much the only leverage I see right now that you have. You know, other than that, they're going to keep telling you no pain, no gain. And like I said, this is not me saying tariffs won't work. I absolutely think that tariffs may work in the long run. It's what you lose in that, in the middle. You know what I'm saying? When you have a date, you have 19 whatever to 19 whatever, or 2000 this to 2000 that dash in the middle is where the pain lies for us. We don't know what's on the other side. But what people have to endure in that middle, that dash, that middle, is scary. Especially when they don't know when this can end. You're telling people to hold on, but you're not even being able to tell them for how long. So how do you expect people to want to hang on when they don't even know how long they're hanging on for? That's what people are worried and afraid of right now.
As well, focusing on tit-for-tat trade war a short time ago, firing back at the European Union, which yesterday unveiled its response to his tariffs on steel and aluminium. In a social media post, Mr. Trump threatening a massive 200% tariff on wine, champagne, and alcohol from the EU unless it rescinds the 50% tariff it imposed
on U.S. spirits yesterday. CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich is live in New York with the latest. Honestly, what a stunning clapback from the president. I'm just taking a look at some of these spirit firms, alcohol firms, and they're all much lower. I just don't know how much of this we can possibly stomach and, how much of this the markets can actually price in. Vanessa, take us through what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible on both sides of the equation here. I mean, the markets right now and investors are really trying to understand sort of two tales of the economy right now. On one hand, you have the president who has ignited a global trade war, as you mentioned, threatening to put a 200% tariff on French wines, champagnes, things that U.S. consumers arguably drink a lot of, because the European Union retaliated with their own tariffs on things like whiskey here in the U.S. because of the steel and aluminum tariffs that President Trump put in place. Now, you see markets there digesting that picture, down slightly, but at the same time, we are getting good consumer news here in the U.S. Just yesterday, consumer prices fell, and today we got producer prices. That's what producers pay, businesses pay for wholesale items. That fell substantially. And so we're seeing two pictures play out. Lower prices for Americans, but the threat of an escalating trade war that could increase prices for Americans. And you've been seeing markets for really the past 2 weeks now trying to grapple with these two different scenarios that are playing out at the same time. Eventually, they are going to collide, but you can see their markets down just slightly, trying to really digest all of this news that's coming out this morning.
Yeah, there's a lot. As you say, markets, companies, CEOs are trying to digest what this ultimately means. And I think there's so much uncertainty. We just don't know which industry is going to be hit next. But Walmart is feeling the heat from the president's tariffs. What can you tell us about how it's impacting? And this is a really important example of how it can hit one of the largest multinationals in the United States.
Yeah, exactly. And Walmart is often considered the bellwether for the U.S. economy here in the U.S. because so many people shop at Walmart for affordable prices. But we're learning that Chinese officials are telling CNN that Walmart executives were in the country trying to get the producers there to lower their prices to offset tariffs, because at the end of the day, it's consumers that are going to have to pay those higher prices. So Walmart executives were in the country talking to producers, trying to get them to lower prices on production. And this is something that does happen regularly. Big companies are always trying to negotiate prices with.
Regularly. This happens with Walmart all the time. That's the way they do business. They put pressures on the manufacturers all the time, bro, and the producers. That's the way they play. You ain't gonna give it to them at what they think and what they want to put it out on their shelves at. They ain't rocking with you. And then they know they have you because they have the ability to distribute your product, you know what I'm saying, to so many different locations. So it's like they have the leverage, and if you want to get in this store, you're gonna have to come way down on your price. And the way you hear from some people, like, it's almost nothing that they make. You know what I mean? They still make money, but not what they should be making.
They're producers of products. But the different scenario that we're in right now is that there is a very high tariff on exports coming from China to the U.S., 30% and upwards. So Walmart, for their part, says that they were doing this to try to save their consumers money. Here's what they said in a statement. They said, our conversation with suppliers are all aimed at making our purpose a reality for millions of customers, and we will continue to work closely with them to find the best way forward during these uncertain times. Now, Walmart is not the only company.